Okay, so if you open your notes to page 4, we're going to finish addition today and then start subtraction. So we have to do the last problem in your notes. So page 4, problem C. This will be a good refresher on what we need to do to add rationals. So first thing I'm going to do is factor. So x plus 5 will factor. And then in the denominator here, two numbers, since there's no leading coefficient, two numbers that multiply to 6 add to -5 is going to be x minus 3, x minus 2, and then this will not factor. So now I'm going to list my restrictions. So x cannot be 3, 2, or 2, which I already have, so it just can't be 3 or 2. And then I'm going to make my common denominator. So obviously, they both have an x minus 2. So if I want these to look alike, I'm going to need x minus 2 and x minus 3. So right here, this is not changing, so I'm going to leave x plus 5 plus, but over here, I need x minus 3 in order for them to look alike. So I'm going to distribute the 7. So 7 times x is 7x. 7 times -3 is -21. I'm going to leave the denominator alone. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So x and 7x makes 8x. 5 and -21 makes a -16. And then your last step is always to see if the numerator factors at all, because if it factors, then we might be able to reduce further. And when I look at this, they do have an 8 in common, so I can factor out a GCF of 8, and I'm left with x minus 2. And as you can see, there's an x minus 2 on top and bottom, and so actually those will simplify, and I will be left with 8 and x minus 3 in the denominator. Okay. So that is a refresher on addition. So now we're going to do subtraction. So if you go back a page to page 3, we had a subtraction problem up here. Okay, so we had skipped B, so now let's go back to it and see what the difference with subtraction is. So again, first thing I'm going to do is factor, but there's nothing to factor here. Since there's no variables in the denominator, there's no restrictions. So then the next thing that I'm going to do is try and get a common denominator. So when I think of 3 and 6, their common denominator is 6. So the 3 I will need to times by 2, which means I'm going to have to distribute. So 2x minus 6. And then this one won't change, but notice I have a minus. So this is minus 3x. So then 2x minus 3x is a -1x minus 6 over 6. And really nothing's, I mean, I could factor out -1, but nothing's really going to simplify here since there's just a 6 on the bottom. So then there is my reduced answer. Okay, so now let's try this with a rational. So turn to page 5. And we'll do our first factor and simplify. So first thing I'm going to do is factor. So this is difference of squares. So I've got 5x minus 6, and then I've got x plus 3, x minus 3, minus, this is not going to factor. So list our restrictions. X cannot be -3 or +3. All right. So now we need our common denominator here. So I've got x plus 3, x minus 3. All right, so here, nothing's going to change. So the 5x minus 6 will stay. But here, I need an x plus 3 on top and bottom. So here's where it's a little bit different from addition in that this is a minus. And so technically, you can make this a plus -4 because you're going to be distributing -4, not +4. So you need to put whatever's in front in parentheses because you have to change the sign of everything behind your minus. You're going to be subtracting, so you're going to basically distribute a negative. So now I've got -4x minus 12. So denominator stays the same. And then I've got 5x minus 4x is x. -6 minus 12, or -6 plus -12 is -18. That's not going to factor, and so there is my most simplified answer. Okay. Let's try the next one, E. Okay, so for E, I'm going to put this over 1 to make it a fraction. So looking at our denominators, nothing to factor, but my only restriction is that x cannot be 0 here or here. So now, let's see, x and 5x, so my common denominator will be 5x. And over here, I'm going to need to times by 5 to make these look the same. So that's a 10x minus 25. Here it won't change, so that's a -4. And then here I'm going to times by 5x, but this is a -4 times 5x, so that is a -20x. And then I'm going to combine my terms. So 10x and -20x makes a -10x. -25 and -24 makes a -29. And then 5x. Nothing factors out here, and so I'm just going to leave it alone. And that's as simplified as it can be. Okay, so let's turn the page to example F. Okay, so page 6, example F. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is factor. So 5's not going to factor, but I'm looking for two numbers. Oops. I'm going to change. Two numbers that multiply to -3, add to -2. It's going to be -3 and +1. So let's list our restrictions here. So we've got x can't be 3 or -1. All right, so now we need a common denominator. So our common denominator will be x minus 3, x plus 1. So this won't change, the 5 won't change, but then over here, I'll need an x minus 3. Okay, now don't forget, when you distribute 2, it's not 2, it's -2. So I'll have a -2x and a +6. So that's the difference between addition and subtraction. So I've got -2x, 5 plus 6 makes 11. And then x minus 3, x plus 1. And I can't factor anything out, and so there is my final answer. So now you have a 3-2-1 to complete, and you're going to do all the subtraction homework in your 8-1 homework packet.